Hey listeners, I want to tell you about the 34th PASA Sustainable Agriculture Conference happening February 5th through 7th in Lancaster, PA. You can register at pasafarming.org/HRN. That's PASA farming.org/HRN. This conference draws a diverse group of rural and urban farmers, educators, advocates, entrepreneurs, community groups, artisans, researchers, policymakers, home cooks and gardeners, youth, and others for 3 days of learning on sustainable agriculture and food systems topics. I went last year and I had a blast and I learned so much. So don't miss more than 80 educational sessions and an expansive trade show. Again, you can learn more and register at pasafarming.org/HRN.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz. We are back with our third installment of the culinary community's reaction to the LA fires, how they've been affected, how they're supporting the entire city, and what the road ahead looks like for rebuilding. First up, we have Brad and Jackie of Chefs Love LA, possibly one of the best dinners and benefits I've ever seen put together. It's a literal who's who of the culinary world, and I'm not going to be able to say everyone, but Ruth Reichel, Danielle Boulud, Naisha Harrington, Billy Harris, Phil Rosenthal, Jeremy Fox, Curtis, Jonathan Waxman. The list goes on and on and on. Kat and John from Yangban, two of our favorites, and tickets are available. There is a link in the episode description. It is going to be at the legendary Lowry's, and everything is going to be helping the culinary community and beyond. We will be there hanging out, and hopefully that you will be there too to help support the World Central Kitchen and Restaurants Cares. In the second half of the show, we chat with fellow Altadenian Zach Fishman, who owns Prime Pizza and is a local of the Altadena area. He talks about his experience during the fire, how he has been on the path to reopen, and how the Altadena community at large and the Altadena restaurant community at large has been affected. For those who want to help and support in the latest Snacky Tunes Substack, there are a lot of ways to help LA restaurants and support either in town or from afar. I suggest that you check that out. And in the previous episodes, there are a lot of links to different places to donate. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Snacky Tunes here on HRN. Brad, welcome back to Snacky Tunes. Jackie, great to meet you. Thank you for stopping by. And how are you two doing? How's everything going?
Good. We're hanging in there as much as we can, given the state of affairs in Los Angeles. It's obviously been devastating and just so heartbreaking to see all the loss, and very, very close to home for many of us. If, it didn't happen to us directly, we have friends and industry colleagues who have lost their homes and have been displaced. So we're, doing what we can to support the community in the meantime.
Yeah, it's why I wanted to chat with you today, because I was waiting for this moment to see not just the day-to-day helping and feeding people that we've seen restaurants, of course, step up as they always do, but these larger events that are going to try and bring in a lot of money and really bring the community together. And your event is, let's just say one of the best events I've seen in the chef world, bar none, but it's also for a great cause. And I'd love for you to tell the listeners about Chefs Love LA and how it came together.
So I'm Brad Metzger. This is Chefs Love LA benefit dinner at Lowry's, the Prime Rib in Beverly Hills on La Cienega on February 27th. Our beneficiaries are Restaurants Care, which is part of the California Restaurant Association, and it supports hospitality workers in need due to anything related to the fire. And also they do plenty of other work supporting any restaurant employees that have needs, and World Central Kitchen. And very excited about it. The lineup is amazing. I couldn't believe how many people said yes to doing this. You know, we do the LA Chef Conference, and we're not used to, you know, pestering and hounding and asking 2 or 3 times for people to participate. And they often come around, you know, but with this one, the resounding answer from people have been yes, including, you know, when Daniel Boulud says yes within 24 hours to participating in an event like this, you know, the industry is coming together in a very big way.
Yeah, it's a really incredible thing to see this unification of what is technically independent restaurants. And I know that the conversation started back in March 2020 about this unofficial network of these types of restaurants and how they support not just each other, but the community at large. And to see it once again be cohesive like this is just a reminder that they need as much support as possible, because they always support us in the community when tragedy hits.
True. Good point.
So in working with the World Central Kitchen and these different organizations, I'd love to hear a little bit about what people are struggling and going through, because I think people still don't really get the economics of what's going on here. So ultimately, what's your goal? What's sort of the delta you're trying to fill? Or is this the first step of many in trying to make hospitality workers whole over the next year or two?
I mean, this is our way of just contributing and doing what we know how to do, you know, with big, important, amazing events like this. And we just want to raise as much money for these 2 charities. You know, Restaurants Care, you know, they're already giving out money. You know, they've been taking applications. They are literally giving out thousands of dollars to hospitality workers in need. And it's not even, you know, an extensive application process. You know, you upload, documents, you apply, and you're getting money within days. You know, they do an incredible job. So we're so excited to support them. And World Central Kitchen, they have some very interesting things in the works, I believe. But even what they do in terms of, you know, giving money to restaurants so that they can feed people, you know, they've been keeping a lot of restaurants busy and with income coming in that they wouldn't normally have, you know. So that's really our focus, is just to raise as much money as we can. You know, we have an incredibly generous title sponsor, the Phil Rosenthal Foundation, that put in a very nice chunk of money. And that's already been, I believe today, the money has gone through. So Restaurants Care will have that money either today or tomorrow to give out to people now, which is amazing, even though our event is on February 27th. And Phil is being generous enough to be there. He's going to have a table with his family. He's going to say some words. He'll be one of our many hosts. So, yeah.
And just to speak more specifically to Restaurants Care, I was on a call with them yesterday. They, in their LA Fire Fund, you know, they obviously organized so quickly. Within 2 weeks of the fire last week, they opened up their applications and they did give out $106,000.
Wow.
To 116 restaurant workers in need who filled out those applications that Brad mentioned. And the team shared emails that they're getting from restaurant workers that are just so heartfelt. They're so appreciative because they have lost their jobs. There's a couple from Moonshadows. They both the husband and the wife work at Moonshadows.
Legendary.
They have children. So they both are out of work. And so this money, you know, has really helped them and given them some hope, and they see that the restaurant community is behind them. And small way.
Yeah,
it's-
go on, Brad.
It's www.restaurantscare.org.
Jackie, I think you hit on a really good point, is that when neighborhoods are lost in these types of situations, all the institutions are affected as well. And it's the people who work in those institutions, front of house, back of house, porters, barbacks, bartenders, valet, and that ecosystem that restaurants really employ so many people. And especially, on the West Side, Moonshadow, Maestros, Reel In, things like that, were institutions that employed a lot of people over there. What is the hope, or what are you hearing for people who are looking for new jobs? This is getting money in their pockets now, but in the long term, seeking reemployment, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking, we're helping them, we're as much as we can. One problem, though, is that restaurants in LA and Southern California are down. They're it's a very tough time for restaurants. So, there's always hiring going on, but it's not like restaurants are booming and everyone's hiring, right? It's a little bit of a different situation. Mm-hmm. But, look, really good workers and employees, they're always in need. They will bounce back. You know what I mean? They will find positions because they're valued. Good employees, managers, chefs, servers, with longevity and good attitudes, they're always in need.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, when I think about that episode of The Bear, when Richie tries to help dishwash and they're like, no, we have two of the best dishwashers in town. You're just going to slow us down. And it's just like, yeah, if you don't have those people who are really good at the inner workings of a restaurant, you're not going to be able to have a successful night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, you and I were texting and chatting a little bit earlier, and we talked about the very sad news that Casilla is closing. And I think you and I both reached the same assumption that this is the first and not the last of what's coming. You guys, both of you, have a really good pulse on the industry. What does the near future and long game look like for the LA dining scene right now?
Well, before we get to the depressing stuff.
No. We're going to end on a high note. We're going to end on a high note with the dinner. I want to sandwich it with the opening, a little bit of the bad stuff in the middle, and then we're going to talk about all of the delicious food and things like that at the end.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Casilla, I'm actually an investor there with the Rustic Canyon Group. Oh. So it's one of my favorite, perhaps one of the top favorite restaurants that I have in LA. The team over there, Bryant and Mariana, the general manager, just incredible. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's a very tough time in LA for restaurants, and it's not the case in other cities like Miami and New York, which I hear are booming.
Yeah. Try and get a table in New York right now.
What was that?
Try and get a table at any popular restaurant in New York right now. It's nuts.
Yeah. So it isn't the first. It's not going to be the last. And it's certainly, even there's been other closures, over the last, month or two or three that have been very devastating as well. It's just tough to operate a restaurant. Everybody knows, look, your listeners a lot of them are in the industry, right? It's not a big mystery, right? The costs of every category have gone up. Labor, food, real estate, utilities, okay? Everyone knows about those items, but sometimes people don't think about the tertiary items like insurance, okay?
Yep.
Who thinks about insurance when they go out to a restaurant, right? The insurance costs have skyrocketed, okay? Litigious issues and lawsuits this is California. That's a big thing, right? A lot of restaurants are continually dealing with lawsuits, frivolous or whatnot. They have to deal with those and they're very expensive. Obviously, restaurants legitimately have had to raise prices. Yeah. Okay. I mean, going out for a nice restaurant, a nice meal now is considerably more than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Considerably.
It's amazing for what I think about 5 years ago. versus going out now. And it's not bad meals. It's just your good night out, standard night out, not even celebration anniversary. Hundreds.
Right. Even just for
Hundreds.
a decent neighborhood restaurant.
And you want to support. I mean, that's the thing about it that's really tough right now is that for all of us here chatting and everyone who's probably listening is you don't want your restaurants, especially in this time of need, to go away. And you know, the newsletter I wrote this week was about supporting restaurants. But man, it's just like, how many times can you go out and spend $300-$400 on a dinner, you know, on a great regular night out?
Right.
It's not feasible.
It's definitely changed dining habits, 100%.
Yeah.
So when you add all these things together, it's very tough. And another point is, I think there's so many restaurants in LA. There's so many restaurants.
So many.
You know, and another thing is not having the tip credit wage here in LA.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. You know? So you add all these things up, plus the pandemic, plus the writer strike, which everybody knows was a big deal. And now this, it's a recipe for disaster, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can never find your footing. I mean, it's been 5 years since really any restaurants really just had a steady year with answers and things like that.
And all of the aid, you know, the PPP and the, you know, all those other things, those really helped. They really helped for the first year or year and a half. And now there's none of that.
Yeah, my gut says that that's not coming this round to California. Yeah. So listen, we know the industry's rough, but there's also a lot of hope in the industry and a lot of community. And circling back to the event, if you're going to save your money to go out to eat, I would highly suggest that you put your money to this meal because it's going to be one to remember. Could you talk a little bit about what people can expect both in the canapé appetizer hour and then also the dinner itself? You don't have to do a full reveal. It could just be a little tease.
No, I have to let Brad take this one because he's just been so creative and so amazing and in putting it all together. I mean, yes, it's a team effort, but my goodness, I credit a lot of this to Brad, so I'm going to let him take this one.
All right. Well, first of all, I will say that we have sponsorships available. We have ticket sales.
Yeah.
All of that money is being paid directly to the two charities. So if you buy a ticket, okay, for the dinner or the VIP, you are going on the World Central Kitchen platform and you are paying World Central Kitchen directly. We're not touching a penny. Okay. If someone is a sponsor, they are paying Restaurants Care directly.
That's amazing.
So in both of those instances, you will be receiving a tax donation letter minus the value of the meal.
Amazing.
Right? So we have the VIP. We're calling it the VIP Michelin Experience, hosted by Ruth Reichel and Jen Harris. Ruth has won, I believe, 8 or 9 James Beard Awards. I can't keep track. She's amazing. I called her. She's a friend. I'm honored to call her a friend. I called her in New York. I told her about what she's doing. She said, I want to come.
Incredible.
Okay? So she's coming out. And she also was like, you know, we chatted about the event and she's like, who else should we get? And I go, I don't know. She goes, how about Jonathan Waxman? I go, that'd be amazing. She goes, I'm calling Jonathan. Literally within a half an hour, she called me back. She said, Jonathan's in.
Is he going to do his chicken?
He's not. Jonathan is collaborating with Naisha Arrington.
Love her.
Yes, they are going to use Luigi Fineo's pasta from his brand new shop in West LA that just opened, Al Dente Pasta Shop. And they are going to do a pasta with truffles from Torinix Gourmet and our friend Raj. So it's like a collaboration of 4 people. Jonathan Waxman, Naisha, Luigi's Pasta, and Raj's Truffles. That's what this event is about. Collaboration and bringing everyone together.
I love it. It's add a course, get 4 or 5 more chefs, people involved, right?
Right. So for that Michelin experience for an hour, it's going to be all these amazing elevated beverages. We just signed on this incredible sake company that serves at Vespertine and serves at Addison. But the chefs that are doing canopies for the VIP are Josiah, Simarusti, Jordan Kahn, Nikki Nakayama and Carol Ida Nakayama, William Bradley, Curtis Stone, and John Yao. Where in the world can you get bites from all of these insane Michelin chefs. Not to mention it's a meet and greet. The chefs will be hanging out. Some of them will have stations. So that is the VIP hour. And then we have the dinner. And for the dinner, we have 8 courses.
Wow.
The chefs are Daniel Boulud, Jonathan Waxman and Aisha, as we discussed. Ludo is doing this insane crab dish that he's so excited about. Jeremy Fox, Katiana and John Hong, Suzanne Goen, Tiffany De La Pena, Tim Cardenas. Bert Backman is collaborating on the meat with Javier Placencia. Andreas Roller from Jonathan Club is going to do an amuse with caviar. And we have perhaps the most acclaimed top current pastry chef in LA, Clemence Delutz from Le Petit Boulangerie in Santa Monica. So that's the dinner. VIP plus the dinner is $1,500.
Amazing.
The dinner is $1,000, paid directly to World Central Kitchen.
Well, I mean, that is worth the price of admission.
I'm on a podcast.
That's worth the price of admission. And you have some of my favorite people in the room together. And they're so nice. And they will definitely shake your hand and take a photo if anyone needs extra encouragement. I know tickets went on sale on yesterday. And if people want to get tickets or get more information or find out when the second drop is going to happen for tickets, where can they go? How can they
website is www.chefslovela.com. There will be, I believe there will be tickets available when this airs. If not, we will be doing a second. We're trying to make some more room at Lowry's. There will be more tickets. For some reason, if there are no tickets, please email the email address that's on the website. It's community@restaurant-solutions.com. We will put you on a waiting list. We will do our best to open up tickets.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those where, you know, it's worth the seat at the bar. It's a great bar at Lowry's too, to have the food, and the bartenders there have tons of great stories and things like that. I cannot thank you both enough. Support the community, all the charity. The dinner sounds amazing. Thank you. And thank you for making the time. I know you both are super busy with everything you're organizing, so I appreciate it. We have another song from the archives, and then we have Zach Fishman from Prime Pizza coming up here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Zach, welcome to Snacky Tunes. I feel like that we had talked about having you on to chat about Prime, and not exactly the way that I wanted the first time to go, but happy to have you on and to talk about the food community in Altadena and restaurant industry. So welcome for the show, and thank you for taking time out of the rebuild to sit down.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Let's just start with how are you doing? We're a little over 2 weeks past the fire. How are you? How are your employees, colleagues? How's it going?
You know, I have to say that I feel very fortunate in that I think that we, at my family personally, we have a lot of support. We have a lot of resources. So I think personally, you know, I'm doing pretty well. Our staff was at Altadena was pretty affected. We had 12 team members who were affected by the fire in different to different degrees. We unfortunately had a couple of team members who lost their homes. We had a handful of team members who are currently displaced, and then another handful of teammates who were displaced for a time but were able to go back to their homes. So all in all, 12 people were affected directly and kind of just to different degrees. And we're just trying to do everything we can as a company to support those individuals on the team and help them get through this as best they can.
I mean, that's so heartbreaking and so scary for people involved with it. I want to go back and again, if it's a little hard to talk about, we can pass a little, but when the fire came and when you knew it was getting close to the business and the restaurant, which supported the community and also the people who work there and was, a place where people meet, what did you go through? How did you hear? What went through your head as, part of your livelihood was in jeopardy?
Yeah, a lot. It was just kind of minute by minute, as you know, having gone through it. It's not like there was a single source of updated information, up to the minute information, right? So I was literally texting constantly with my neighbors on that block, Adam from Altadena Bev and the people from Armand Market and my general manager who actually lives right down the street. I was just constantly texting them being like, what's the update? What's going on? And it was just a real teeter-totter, It was like that area, that little corner for some reason fared relatively well. Thank God. We were very lucky. But then the day, I think it was Thursday, it seemed like maybe the fire was coming back that way a little bit. And it was another kind of stressful night. But my friends helped me. They kept passing by and being like, Prime's still there. Yeah. And that was great because I was actually, I don't know if I mentioned to you previously, but I was out of town.
No.
When it happened. Yeah. We went up to Mammoth with the kids on Monday. And so we were out of town, which was incredibly stressful. And so I was getting a lot of my information secondhand until I got down there on Friday. So it was just a lot of friends kind of passing by the neighborhood and giving me updates.
Yeah. For people who were coincidentally out of town and those who may have not been in LA or in the area be like, why didn't you go back? Why didn't you go back? It's like, it wasn't safe to go back. Like, you couldn't actually get in. I know my wife tried to go back Wednesday around, I think, the time that we actually lost our house, and there were just cops everywhere, but also you couldn't see anything. And there wasn't clear communication for any part of East or West Altadena about what was happening, what was going on. Not by anyone's, well, I wouldn't say by anyone's fault, but it was just very, very complicated. So when you finally got back and you saw not just Prime Pizza and that strip, but all of Altadena, how did you feel? What went through your mind?
Oh my God. I mean, really kind of like no words to describe it. I mean, still. Yeah. I mean, we've lived in Altadena for 10 years. We love it. Like, we love it so much. Mm-hmm. The community means so much to us, and opening up Prime Altadena was the highlight of my career. It was absolutely my favorite thing I've ever done. And I had waited 10 years to have a pizza shop in my neighborhood. Yeah. So seeing the community devastated to the degree that it was absolutely, it was horrifying. It was just, I mean, there's really no words for it. I mean, driving up Lake, I felt like I was in a movie. Like it felt like CGI, you know? I mean, the devastation, the level of devastation was just unbelievable.
Yeah. When, that Thursday after the fire, walking up Fair Oaks was just, and stuff was still on fire, and there was, you know, gas lines just ignited, and you're like, this isn't real. It didn't feel real. Because the devastation so wide. And thankfully, I mean, I've never seen that, and I've never had my community so devastated. I mean, I went through, you know, Sandy in New York, but that was a little different because it was a little bit further away from the Rockaways, and other spots were affected. But to be at the center of it, to live at the center of it is absolutely heartbreaking. You know, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I as we're talking about that, I was kind of getting that feeling in the pit of my stomach again, like in those first couple of days, like just that like mixture of nauseousness and anxiety and sadness and anger and like just like all of that kind of like in the pit of my stomach. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of that feeling, you know.
A lot of anger, especially as some of the cause of it starts coming to light. You know, the restaurant scene in Altadena was really coming into its own. I thought was, you know, with Mia and Benny and some other places. But the restaurant community, for those who aren't familiar, in Altadena is decades old. What have you heard from Little Red Hen, Fox's, you know, some of the original places that put Altadena on the map, Rancho Bar, places like that?
Yeah. I'm not in touch personally with any of those three that you just mentioned. I mean, Fox's was my family's go-to place. Yeah. We went there almost every weekend. And I'm just, I want to get in touch with, you know, Aaron and Mary and the people who worked there. You know, I'm thinking about them, and I wish I had their numbers to contact them. You know, we tried to put Fox's GoFundMe front and center on Prime's Instagram and get some support there. It looked like they had some pretty good support for their staff, which is great. I don't know any of those places' plans to rebuild. I haven't heard anything. I mean, you think about a place like Rancho. The thing that made Rancho amazing, I mean, lots of things, right? But sure. But when you walk into Rancho, as a restaurant owner, as someone who has built restaurants and has gone through code a lot of different times and knows the codes for ADA and building codes and things like that, you walk into Rancho and my first thought is, oh my God, this is incredible. it's almost like every inch of this place is a code violation, and you could never rebuild it. That's the thing, is like, that's the tragedy of losing places like that, is like, you can't rebuild Rancho. Sure, you can rebuild something in the same plot and call it Rancho Bar, but you can't recreate the intimacy of that space. Sitting at that bar, it was so, you were like in each other's faces. Like it was so intimate. It was so tight. You know, the way that anyone who went there and saw how those bartenders worked, and the little kitchen in the back, and that little bar space. I mean, it was so unique. It was so warm and wonderful feeling in there that, like, you just can't recreate that. It's lost. And that's the tragedy.
Yeah, it's that patina of decades of the local community.
Yes.
It's
and same thing with Fox's, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that was a weird little house that was somehow converted into a restaurant with a pass through to the back that went through the kitchen, kind of like expo line. It was insane. I mean, it was wonderful and crazy, and you'll never build that ever again, because none of it was to code. And you know, it's just like all that stuff is lost. And that's the tragedy in fires and disasters like these, is you lose those really old spaces that just had really amazing character that you're not going to be able to recreate.
I agree. You know, the one finding the right language to talk about this is so tough, but
it's challenging.
With those restaurants, is that even though you might not be able to recreate the space, you can recreate the flavors, and there is a way to tap into that generations of dishes and things that you and your family and the community loved. I was reading about Little Red Hen, and it seems like they have every intention to rebuild, and I hope that they do. And I think that the community will be better for it if those original restaurants come back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really hope that they do. I think what's challenging, and this is true on the residential and commercial side, is that all of us who are standing on the sidelines, so to speak, and by that I mean all of us in the restaurant community who did not lose our structures. It's of course easy for us to say they should come back, they should rebuild. We want them to rebuild, of course. But I think it's another thing for them to navigate that, you know, financially, and hopefully they all had insurance, or, you know, they are working with landlords who are sympathetic and willing to work with them. But there's a lot of stuff to navigate there. There's a lot of tricky areas, and a lot is out of their control if they did not own the land. So there's just a lot to navigate in that rebuild.
Yeah, it's not easy, and it's not clear, and going through it ourselves is just, at some point, it just gets out of your hands, and you're hoping that everyone's going to do the right thing to rebuild, but you just don't know. You just don't know.
And I think a lot of them don't know yet either. It's like, I was talking with Jamie, who owns Pizza of Venice, and like, you know, it was just like, I don't think that he really was able to even fully process it yet. Like, you know, I was kind of asking him some questions, and it was very clear to me that he was basically like, yeah, I don't know, you know, and I don't blame him. It's like, you don't have answers right away. You know, it's so overwhelming, and you're trying to, a lot of people are also navigating personal and business losses at the same time, which is devastating, you know?
Yeah. And that was a lot of people. I know that, you know, Kevin over at Side Pie lives in Altadena, and Side Pie burned down. And, you know, there's a lot of businesses that it's like, you lost both. You can't go home and you can't go to work, and it's all tied together. I want to go back to Prime Pizza a little bit and talk about where you guys are. So you're lucky enough not to burn down, but that doesn't mean doors are just open. What's been the process of getting that up and running? And then as a side note, is there a community, enough people back in town who can support in the way that you had before the fire?
Yeah, so the process has been very much on, there is, much like COVID, there's very little guidance.
Yes.
As usual,
Yep.
The restaurant community is left to figure things out on their own, which is
And
fine.
feed
We're used to
everyone
doing
in
it.
the city as well.
Not just the restaurant community. It's pretty much everyone.
No, but I'm saying the restaurant community is left to rebuild and then also counted on to feed everyone as well, because that's just what they do.
Yes, that's just what we do. We're used to it. That's fine. We know the drill by now. So we're just using so I'll kind of walk you through the timeline.
Yeah.
The fire happened and basically, we were all evacuated and much of our staff was evacuated. And so that was just kind of like, pencils down, leave everything, and we're out of the picture for a while. And then, and the evacuation lasted, I want to say a week, maybe a little bit more. And then as that kind of calmed down, then the focus turned to utilities.
Yeah.
And the question was, because it was very clear early on in Prime's case that there was no physical damage, and that was very lucky.
Yeah.
And so then our attention turned to utilities. And at that point, basically all of our utilities were off. We didn't have power, water, or gas. So then I think gas was the first to come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was working closely with someone at SCE who this is just to give you an anecdote of how these things work.
Yeah.
I literally flagged down an SCE truck
Yes.
as they were driving by and was just like, "You stop. Can you help me?" And I just happened to flag down the right truck.
Yeah.
And it was somebody who, had some inside knowledge, and they connected me with a guy inside SCE who became kind of a liaison between us and SCE. And so I was working with him for many days to try and figure out, okay, this is the circuit that we're on. What's the damage level? What's your, expected time frame for us to get power on? And we actually got power back ahead of schedule, which was amazing.
Amazing.
So then the last to come online was water. And the water was on for many days, but it was not cleared by the water board.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to wait for clearance from the state water board that it was safe to use and drink. And that came late last week. And so once we got that was kind of the final piece of the puzzle. And then once we had that, we could turn our attention to getting the site professionally cleaned and remediated, which is the phase that we're in now. And so now that's all happening. And in order to do that, we had to coordinate with the insurance. And I was coordinating with both the landlord's insurance and my own business insurance. So that was, a tricky piece of the puzzle. So I had to get both of them working together to approve all the quotes and start work. So now they are working on the space currently. And so that's kind of the story of kind of the physical space. And the other half of that is kind of the story of the employees
Mm-hmm.
and the team members and kind of keeping them updated and supporting them. And, thank God we have, good business insurance and we have business interruption insurance. And so we've been able to pay our employees through this entire closure, which has been amazing. And we would have done it. We would have found a way to do it anyway.
Sure.
But having the insurance there was just a godsend to just have that security. Right. And so we've just been trying to keep a line of communication with our employees open every day. And actually last Tuesday, we had a really nice get together with all of the Altadena team members. We had them all over to our office for lunch, and my team had coordinated a whole donation. We did kind of like a mini donation center at our office. And so the team members came over, we all had lunch together. I kind of gave them an update on where we stand, what the expected timeline is to go back to work. They all came upstairs and took stuff from the donation pile. And we had some hugs and some laughs, and it was great to see everyone. And I think everyone misses their community and misses normalcy,
Yeah, I think that sort of touches on the second part of that is you're going to reopen, you're moving at a good clip, but half of the community is gone and will not be returning for a long time. Even those who just need remediation and clearing the smoke out and things like that, it could be anywhere up to 9 months to a year before people are sort of even getting the chance to rebuild. How does a business stay afloat like that? How does a restaurant community up there that is pretty much, I'm not saying that people weren't driving in, but it's a high double-digit percentage of locals who are supporting the restaurants up there. And again, there's obviously no answer from the government or any support or things like that, but how do restaurants survive that long?
Yeah. Our community, our Altadena community is super close knit, and we were definitely, a huge percentage of our customer base is local to, a 5 mile radius in Altadena. Yeah. I think this is where Prime is a little bit different from other restaurants in that we are really pizza is a commodity food, right? Pizza is an everyday utilitarian kind of very versatile food. So the answer to your question, I think, is very different for Prime Pizza than it is for, say, Bernie, right? Bernie, I think, is going to have a much more difficult time answering that question when they reopen. And I haven't spoken to Tyler yet. I don't know what his plans or his timeline is for reopening. I know that the restaurant was not physically affected, which is great. Rather, it wasn't burned. I'm sure there's smoke and stuff like that. But it's just a much different question for someone like Bernie than it is for us, right? I'm not that, everyone's been asking me that question. I'm not that worried about it. There are, first of all, there's thousands of workers who are in that area now every day, and they're going to be there every day for the foreseeable future. All those people need to eat. They all need to eat lunch. So I don't doubt that a big chunk of our business, once we open, hopefully early next week, is going to come from workers coming by for lunch, right? Yeah. Or stopping by for an early dinner, right? I think that is going to become a big part of our business, and we are well situated to accommodate that, right? We have a great lunch special. We have a patio where they can come, and take their 30-minute break or whatever it is and enjoy an affordable lunch in the area. So, I think the other thing that I'm anticipating is I think that our third-party sales, meaning Uber and Postmates, are going to be much higher than they were previously, because while people are out of their homes, just like you relocated close to where your home was, right? So I think that a lot of people are going to do the same, and they're going to be in the greater Pasadena area, and they're still going to want things that they're still going to want all their comfort foods, including Prime Pizza. And so I think that while they may be too far away to maybe come and dine in with us, I think that a lot of people are going to be ordering from us via third-party platforms. And so I expect that number to go way up and be a bigger part of our business in the future.
Yeah. I think that you're absolutely right that the fast casual sort of staples, the Mias and things like that, the grab and goes will do well. It's the sit-down fine dining that has a tougher road ahead. I want to leave on a positive note because, we've been in Altadena for 4 years, and people, well, one, they ask where it is, and I don't think I ever have to explain where it is again. I think everyone's going to know where Altadena is. So I can retire my, the Rose Bowl spiel. But when people ask, what do you love about living there? It really is the community. It's the people. It's living near the mountains. It's everything like that. So what are you hopeful about with Altadena as we start to rebuild?
I think that the spirit of the people who live in Altadena is strong and fiercely independent and loyal to Altadena. I think that is a big part of what makes this community so special. People, when you ask them about Altadena, you're not going to find many people who are kind of like, take it or leave it, right? Like, people really, really love Altadena for all of the reasons that make Altadena amazing, some of which you just mentioned, right? The weirdness, the kind of untidy nature of Altadena, the lack of sidewalks, right? Like the unincorporated nature of Altadena is part of what makes Altadena so special, right? And people are not going to give that up easily.
No.
So there obviously there's going to be some hard decisions for many people to make.
Agreed.
But when you talk about, do people want to stay and rebuild? Overwhelmingly, yes. Like, overwhelmingly, the answers I'm getting from people are like, we're here for the long haul.
Yep.
We're here forever. Altadena forever. We're going to rebuild. We're going to be better than ever. Like, we're not going anywhere. And that is what gives me hope that when we rebuild, we are going to end up with a community that is just as strong and wonderful as when we started this process. And that's what I'm hopeful for.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you so much. Thank you for all the support for the community in the last few weeks. We're not that far away. We'll be dining on that patio as soon as you're open. If people want to order from you or order from another location or just follow along with the rebuilding process or get updates, because you've been doing some really great Instagram updates from on the ground Altadena, where can they go to check it out?
Yeah, so Instagram is a great place for updates on the business. Prime Pizza LA is our handle. The website is primepizza.la. You can order online there from all 6 of our locations that are open. Altadena will be hopefully opening early next week. So starting early next week, you'll be able to order from Altadena. If all goes well, we will be open well enough ahead of the Super Bowl, and we will be here for Go Birds. We'll be here for all of your Super Bowl needs. So that's where you can find us.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's got to be a big business day for you guys. People are gonna, right?
Oh yeah, we had our eyes very nervously on that date. Sure. If we're not open for the Super Bowl, it's very, very bad for us. So we need to be up and running by the Super Bowl.
All right, sure. You hear that, city? You hear that, Altadena? We need our wings. We need our pizza. We need our ranch dipping sauce. Zach, thank you so much. Big shout out to Falco for putting us in touch as well. Don't forget to get your tickets for Chef Love LA. Link in the bio. We have one more song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on HRN. We'll see you next episode.
So quick to be wise. When my luck runs out, we improvise. Your heart's on display, but I have nothing to say. Too fleeting to see, prefer to paint it all off a memory. Too restless, suppose. So I begin with a ghost. The only gift I've left to give you. These promises may not outlive you. Little early to say. Little early to take down all the evidence. I'm no stranger to the sentiment. Wasted, playing dead. It's no defense. It's no defense. Too little, too late. We heard the word wait. I felt it tremble after the earthquake. No one can tell you which way the bone breaks till it's too late. Begin with my ghost, yeah, and bleed it till the curtains close on all that awaits. I just stood there stammering at fate. Too little, too late. We heard the word wait. I felt you tremble after the earthquake. No one can tell you which way the bone breaks till it's too late. Too little, too late. I felt you tremble. No one can tell you which way the bone breaks till it's too late. The only gift I've left to give you. These promises may not outlive you. Little early to say. We talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.